Hey 49er fans, this is Jack Hammer and welcome to Inside the 49ers, where we have some information and update on Brock Purdy's return to the 49ers and where he is right now. John Lynch went on the radio this morning out here in the Bay Area with KMBR, speaking on the Murph and Mack show, and he stated that things are going well. The reports on Purdy, he is working out at the 49ers facility. The 49ers have been able to coordinate his full workout program with his surgeon, Dr. Keith Meister, along with his physical therapist from out in Phoenix, so that Purdy's comfortable enough to be able to be doing all of his workout, rehab work in Santa Clara with the 49ers team and with their strength and conditioning staff. So Brock Purdy working out in Santa Clara with his 49ers teammates. The big thing is his return to the field. What does that timeline look like? As we've reported a number of times here on Inside the 49ers, Purdy's return is the next big date is going to be 12 weeks post-surgery. And John Lynch reiterated that today, stating that around that 12-week mark, that's when they'll know how things are progressing. And then at that point, he'll begin to start doing his throwing regimen as long as everything is progressing the way that it should. And at this point, there's no signs that it will veer off of that path. Now, if you look at a 12-week mark for Brock Purdy, the original surgery date happening in March puts the 12-week mark at June 2nd. June 2nd is exactly 12 weeks post-surgery. John Lynch today stating that it would be around early June, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with the June 2nd date that I put out there. So right around that point is when we will see Brock Purdy begin throwing. From that point, we'll be able to start to get a better read on where he is in terms of being able to return to full action. When he first starts off this throwing regimen, it's going to be just light throws, lobbing the ball, using smaller balls instead of footballs, those types of things, just to kind of get the arm ramped up. He's working on strength in it as it is now, but in terms of building it back up for actually throwing, that'll be happening with that June 2nd date, after that 12-week mark. So he'll definitely be working up that the strength, working up the stamina. They'll gradually extend the distance. They'll gradually increase the number of reps and those types of things. So things are on track. That's the big news, is that things are on track. Things are progressing in the right direction for Brock Purdy, and we'll see where it goes. I've said a number of times that the 24-week mark, that is if these full 6 months that they've mentioned from the beginning, if that runs all the way out to that full 24 weeks, that would put Brock Purdy back with the 49ers August 25th. That's Friday, August 25th, the day after their final preseason game. Gives them 2 weeks with the team to get ready to go for week 1. If you look at the past history on this, I would believe that Purdy will be back sooner than that. If I had to bet on a time frame, I'd say keep an eye on that, maybe around the 11th to 14th of August, right around that, because Nick Mullins underwent this same procedure. He was back in 5 months. That would be end of July. So I'm going to go in the middle, say August 10th to 14th, right around there for Brock Purdy. Plenty of time to ramp up and be ready for week 1 with the 49ers. Another topic that was discussed is the 49ers taking kicker Jake Moody at number 99. And according to Lynch, he was the number 1 kicker on the board. They did a lot of work on kickers. They looked at possibly trades. They looked at other players they could possibly sign. There was a lot of things they looked into it. Jake Moody ended up being the number 1 kicker out there. And it wasn't just because of his ability to kick, but also his mental makeup, his toughness, and those types of things. Definitely something that we've heard from Jim Harbaugh, who was his coach at Michigan, has talked about Jake Moody and his mental toughness several times, going back to last season when they were together and during this draft process as well. So the other thing that Lynch mentioned was that there has been some discussions about how the 49ers should have taken a kicker there. They could have waited. They could have done different things. This was the guy they wanted, and that's why they took him. You know, the 49ers, with the way that their roster is made up, this was a little bit of a luxury pick because their roster is so deep. They were looking for somebody that could really step in and start right away, and that's Jake Moody. And you start to look around, he said after the draft and talking with other teams, that there were several teams that were interested in kickers in this draft, including some that were looking to trade up and even maybe try to trade ahead of the 49ers. So getting him at 99 works for the 49ers. I think it makes a lot of sense. In terms of taking over for Robbie Gould, the accuracy on the kicks, I think, is going to be somewhat similar. We'll see how it progresses for Moody. Possibly his biggest impact, though, will come with the kickoffs. Stronger leg, ability to get the ball into the end zone on those kickoffs, get touchbacks when you want to, or be able to get it up a little bit higher and get more hang time on those kickoffs to help your coverage unit get down there. I think that's where Moody may even have a bigger impact than what we saw from Robbie Gould, because this is a guy with a bigger leg that can actually do those things. So we'll see how it plays out. It's always a risk when you take a kicker, especially when you invest as much as the 49ers have here in Moody. So that's why there's been so many people talking about it. And then finally, there was a really nice article that came out, fellow 49ers beat writer Matt Barrows interviewing former 49ers and general manager Scott McCloughan for The Athletic. Read through that a little bit today, and it was quite interesting. I really like to hear what McCloughan said. He's somebody that when it comes to evaluating players, I hold in high regard. I think he does a very good job of it. If the 49ers could have him be a consultant, I think it would be a good thing. But he had a lot to talk about, in particular one pick in general, and that was the player the 49ers took at number 101, Cameron LAtu. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know that I've said a couple of times that I felt like maybe the 49ers overdrafted LAtu a little bit here at 101. This is a player that was expected, I think, by many to go more towards the late 100s, early 200s, but they took him at 101. I've explained in the past that I think the reason they took him at 101 is because they really liked the player, and then not having another pick until 155, LAtu wasn't going to be there. They really liked this guy in particular, so they pulled the trigger so they wouldn't lose him. And then listening to what Scott McCloughan said made me think that they might have made a right decision here. We'll see how it plays out. But according to McCloughan, he's been watching LAtu since 2019. That was around the first time that he went through Alabama. LAtu had just switched over from defensive end, and he's been following him for a long time. And according to Scott McCloughan, LAtu has the potential to be an every down tight end. According to, again, McCloughan, sees a lot of promise in LAtu, believes that with work and development, he can turn into that every down tight end. So we'll see how that goes. I do believe that part of the reason the 49ers went after LAtu is because they're looking for a long-term replacement to potentially be able to take over for George Kittle, who is going into his year 30 season, and he's had a lot of injuries. He's getting a little bit more towards the end of the line when it comes to his playing career in San Francisco. So you go out and you get Cameron LAtu, and one other thing that was mentioned by McCloughan that I wanted to mention here is he talked about how LAtu, if you look at his background, must have been a basketball player. And he says that because you're able to see the way that his flexibility, the way he runs his routes, the way he's able to get in and out of his breaks and all those things. And Scott McCloughan says when he was watching LAtu at Alabama, it was like watching Tony Gonzalez run routes. Tony Gonzalez, for those of you who don't know, if you're on maybe on a little bit of the younger side, Tony Gonzalez, one of the best tight ends in the history of the National Football League, played basketball at the University of Cal Berkeley, as well as football, went on to a stellar career in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs. So if Cameron LAtu can get anywhere close to Tony Gonzalez, if he can even start to scratch the surface of being Tony Gonzalez, the 49ers have a good pick, especially since they took him at number 101. So there you have it. Take it for what it's worth. 49ers, Brock Purdy update, Jake Moody, and Cameron LAtu. Some good things there. If you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, and then after you're done doing that, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and then the little bell so that you make sure that you get all the notifications so that every time we put new information up, you don't miss it. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Keep it locked in here to Inside the 49ers for all your 49ers news and updates as they happen. Take care, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon.